Hello, everyone. Dr. Stillman here, and today I'd like to introduce my friend Jim Laird. Jim Laird is a strength and conditioning coach. He's got years of experience. I'll let him run through his CV, so to speak. And we are excited to announce that we are going to be teaming up to offer care to my patients, his clients. And we wanted to take the opportunity to explain to people what we're going to be offering and why we think what we're doing is definitely going to be the future of medical care and certainly integrative medicine in the United States and in the world. But we'll start here.
One day at a time. I've been a strength and conditioning coach for over 20 years now. And I think the thing that sets me apart from others is my holistic approach, mainly from my own experience with dealing with my own health issues, but really looking at like low-hanging fruit first. If a woman comes to me for fat loss, I'm going to ask her like what kind of medication she's on, and if she's on birth control or an antidepressant. Obviously I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to prescribe, but I'm going to give her information and say, hey, one of the side effects of this medication is that, it's going to be very difficult for you to lose weight. And then give them information on different forms of birth control so they can talk to their doctor instead of just throwing exercise at them. One lady I had was on Depo, which is that's an injectable birth control, isn't it? And,
right.
That makes it just about impossible for them to lose weight. And she was exercising a ton, and she got off the Depo. She not only felt better, obviously didn't tell her to do that. I just gave her the information. She obviously started feeling better, and then lost a significant amount of body fat really quickly because when you're on something like Depo, it's going to be very difficult for you to lose body fat. Another one of the things that I see is things like statin drugs. I'll have, a lot of doctors would send people to me because I got this reputation of helping people, get out of pain. And I would ask them about their lifestyle and ask them what medications they're on. Oh yeah, I'm on people over 50. Oh, I'm on a statin. I'd give them the book, The Great Cholesterol Myth. Instead of just starting to exercise them, we would look at that. And, one of the side effects of a statin drug is pain. So I would educate them on that. I had another guy that came to me that was in chronic pain. He was been on Prilosec for 20 years, which is an acid reflux drug. Gave him some information about that. He wasn't absorbing what he was eating. So got him educated. He was able to make some choices that helped improve his situation. Women that were over exercising. I had one lady named Rachel Matthews. You can Google my name, Jim Laird, and Rachel Matthews. There's a whole podcast with her. Mother of 3, working 3 jobs, exercising, gaining weight. And her coach told her to exercise twice a day. She was going at 5 a.m. and at 5 p.m. And then basically, the story with her was getting her to dial back her exercise, do more strength training. And then over a course of like 2 years, getting her to realize that she needed to take care of herself first. Like so many women take care of everyone else, their kids, their husband, their job, and then there's nothing left for them. So it was a long going process, but the before and after is incredible. I had another lady named Suzanne Waldrop, who was a marathon runner who was not happy about what she looked like. And she was gaining weight, gaining body fat, and running more. And so it was a matter of changing her exercise prescription, changing what she ate, focusing on doing a little bit less. And now she competes in powerlifting and she looks like a completely different person. So a lot of what I do is talking to people, figuring out what the big rocks are, and then basically either working with the doctor, providing information for my client to go to the doctor, or for, in this case, providing information for you to get the client the best care they possibly need. And then also, one of the things, I've had clients that I had for 20 years and constantly checking on them multiple times a week on, okay, how are you sleeping? Like, are you taking care of yourself? The constant re-education, the reminders of lifestyle, and for myself too, and you as well. We both, we talk all the time. I think people think that because we're coaches, we're immune to like slide backs and fallbacks. But, I have, during the, whatever you want to call it, pandemic, my gym was locked down. I struggled hard. I was locked down for 6 months. We had some long talks about, man, you need to get back to the basics and take care of yourself and maybe go find some new hobbies, because I was really struggling. And so I think a lot of times when people are dealing with doctors and that, they don't really feel that they're heard. A lot of the doctors will just write them a prescription and not listen to what they're actually struggling with or saying. And I think there's a lot of root causes, either psychological or habitual, that cause a lot of issues. Like I've worked a lot with autoimmune conditions like PCOS, Hashimoto's, and talking to them about meditation, about stress management, about getting their exercise dialed in so that it's actually a positive and not a negative. Whereas most coaches are just going to like, oh, you need to lose fat. Well, you need to do more cardio. You know, for somebody like Hashimoto's or somebody with PCOS, that might make them worse, right?
That's exactly right.
Dialing in what that person needs, and then also helping them develop habits and giving them stuff that's actually digestible. Because a lot of people like me, when I had some of my health issues, I was like on the verge of not being on the earth. So I was highly motivated to make some massive changes. And that's kind of how I work. Like I crash my car and I fix it. Like that's kind of how I've always operated. Other people don't necessarily work that way. They might need some slow integrated things over time. And then some people don't need to go like crazy to get better. You know, they might be able to do a few simple things and they see some improvement that where they're happy with, and they have to decide, you know, what's best for them and their lifestyle. And that's where, you know, somebody like you and I can come in and help. And the great thing about working with you is, you know, when I'm dealing with people on here, I can check in on them for you, provide positive reinforcement for them. And then also say, hey, you know what, you need to talk to Dr. Stillman. This is something that's medical, that's beyond, you know, what I can help you with. So it's, I think in medicine, one of the problems is we don't empower the patient in medical.
You work with doctors all the time, and you're
right. So what I've observed is the doctor just doesn't have the time to help the patient with the lifestyle changes. And the doctors half the time they don't get taught that in school. So they don't know about lifestyle. They don't know about, you know, sleep and light and nutrition and all these things. They have very minimal knowledge of that. And most of them are stressed out and exhausted on themselves. Right. So they're not going to have the time to help educate the patient, where someone like I have the time to come in, help them with the lifestyle changes. You check in with them from time to time. And so this is a great, I think this kind of setup where you've got somebody who's a lifestyle coach that's had 20 years experience talking to people, can kind of help, you know, figure out what the big rocks are, and then get your help on the medical side. And we can work together to kind of get people going in the right direction. And also, you know, as an accountability thing, because people are, you know, people think you're just going to do some magic formula for a couple of weeks and then you're cured forever. No, like you're constantly going to have health challenges. You know, somebody dies in your family, there's a lot of stress. So it's nice to have somebody like myself or yourself to basically remind people, hey, you know what, get back to basics. You know, you need to get yourself in a better place, and this time will pass. And the cool thing is when you get people healthier and you get them doing the right things, then they become more resilient and they can handle more stress.
And it's interesting, one of the examples that you just offered of a patient or client who came to you on a proton pump inhibitor and acid blocking medication. I just had a case come to me last fall where they were on an acid blocking medication and they were concerned that they were losing weight. They were malnourished. They had a lot of problems with their blood, with their hormones. And I identified the acid blocking drug as part of their problem. Now, they couldn't go off of it because they'd had a history of really severe reflux, and they'd even had a gastric ulcer that had to be operated on years in the past.
Sure.
And so they were hesitant to come off of it. But I said, look, come off of it. We're going to get you on these herbs. We're going to get you on some aloe that are going to soothe your stomach and going to keep it, you know, properly regulated. We're going to start you on these supplements. We're going to change your diet to more frequent meals, smaller quantities at each meal, different macronutrient mix, different, you know, mix of food types. Gradually transitioned the diet, got him off of these medications. And I just got his labs back today. And, you know, the first round of labs I did was just focused on his nutrition. And we found that he had some really profound nutritional deficiencies that were the result of years of acid blocking therapy. Fast forward 3 or 4 months on this new diet, new supplements, et cetera, we see that all of his blood counts have come back into the normal range from being severely anemic and having a low white blood cell count. And the size of his red blood cells has normalized, which means that he has got adequate levels of B vitamins and minerals and other vitamins that are necessary for the production of those red blood cells. This is the kind of guy who would go to a gym and start training with somebody. And because he's got a very strong mindset and attitude, he'll overwork himself, he'll lose weight. And even though he's exercising, he won't actually gain muscle mass, and he may actually end up hurting himself when eventually his body runs out of resources and it starts to break down.
You get something like rhabdo.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, what I've found is that as I've, started working with more and more patients, they want me to work with more and more of their friends and family. And it really results in me wanting to spend most of my time on the labs and the big medical decisions, which means that there's a lot of space for a coach or trainer or whatever you want to call it to come in and talk to them about the simple things that they really need to be implementing on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis in order to maintain their health and then achieve good health. Because there's so many things that I've found in my practice that are not readily identified in the lab work. So somebody, let's say, as we've talked about so many times, let's say that they're exposed to excessive artificial light at night. That's going to disrupt their hormones. It's going to disrupt their sleep. Frequently, when we get them on a better lighting schedule or activity schedule, or we have them mitigating the effects of artificial light at night, we see that their sleep improves. We see that many of their antioxidant biomarkers improve. We see that many of their metabolic biomarkers improve, and the patient feels better and starts to achieve goals like weight loss, goals like gains in strength or gains in definition or tone. That doesn't require an MD to teach somebody.
Right.
And so that's where this is, I think, the way that our practice is and should go. And as we've talked about as well, a lot of people are offering, a lot of courses, but, you and I have both have gotten feedback from patients that they want someone to really talk to and spend time with them and understand their unique context and situation, and not necessarily give them a ton of detail and science that people like us are fascinated by, but actually give them concrete steps, in your situation, with your house, with your office, with your car. This is what I would do in 5, 10, 20-minute sound bites and concrete habits that will fit their lifestyle and, their job and their environment and all these other factors that are so important to getting success.
Absolutely. People don't have, and that's why people come to me to train with me, because in 2 hours, if they walk every day, I can get them fitter than if somebody trains 6 days a week in a gym, because I've over the years, I've become very efficient. So I'm selling time. So people don't have the time to go through a 6-hour EMF course or to read all of John Ott's stuff, or, do all the research and listen to all these blogs. They basically want simple things that we need to pound into their head on a constant basis. What I used to do classes, and then I changed my business model. And one of the things, the feedback I got from the people that switched over to the semi-private is the beginning of every class, I would give a lecture on light or sleep or stress management or whatever I felt was on my heart. And the people were like, we really missed those because we needed that constant reminder. And I kind of, one of the reasons I'm not as consistent as I should be on social media is because I talk about the same things all the time. And for me, it drives me nuts. But really, most people are not doing the fundamentals. There's a guy named Stan Efferding who's he has a system called the vertical diet, and it basically looks at all these basic things like vitamin D levels, walking outside 3 times a day, and he's working with the top level strength athletes. And he starts with those basics, and none of them are taking their sleep seriously. None of them are taking getting outside seriously. Most of them have, vitamin D deficiencies. They have all these things. These are the elite level performers, like the world's strongest man type athletes, bodybuilders. These are people that are like super into their bodies. If they don't have the basics down, the normal person, it definitely is not going to have those basics down. And we can just get somebody, if we can look and get somebody's big rocks and get them started in the right direction, we can get that ball rolling. And then, with you looking at things from the lab side of things, and for somebody like me, I can talk to somebody and see those red flags and ask the questions and be like, yeah, you definitely need to talk to Dr. Stillman, and you definitely need to get some lab work done. So I think it's a great way to team up and give people what they actually want, which is a simple plan customized for them to help them find the easiest way to be as healthy as possible. And everybody's definition of healthy is a little bit different for their situation.
The other reason why I'm excited about this is that, in particularly the last, 6 months, maybe, it's become more and more apparent to me in my practice, as I've seen some patients really succeed and some patients not get the results that they wanted, how important it is for them to have someone and a team really that understands psychosomatic medicine, for lack of a better term,
Sure.
and really this connection between the mind and the body, because we've talked about this so much, we have so many people coming to us for our help who are using exercise or who are using supplements or who are using even, prescription drugs to enable
Alcohol,
lifestyle.
drugs, sex,
Yeah.
food, whatever. Yeah.
To enable coffee. Can't forget the coffee.
Coffee, energy drinks. Yeah.
The energy drinks.
Yeah.
To enable a lifestyle that's not really healthy. And so often there's a component of that, which is, toxic relationships, negative influences from friends, family, and negative self beliefs or self relationship, so to speak, where they're not in a positive mindset about themselves and they don't take time to take care of themselves, and they're constantly taking care of other people, as you mentioned before.
Right. That's a way to not deal with. So for years I dealt with managing some anger issues I had from some issues from my childhood that I needed to forgive some people and move on. I used exercise so I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't want to deal with the pain. I mean, we'll do incredible things to avoid pain. And so you have a busy life, you're taking care of everyone else. You just keep pushing the shit in the closet, right? You just stack it in the closet. You stack it in the closet. I was taking stimulants, I was taking performance enhancing drugs so I could drive myself in the way I could train harder and manage my anger, when all I needed to do was basically deal with some things and forgive some people. And eventually one day that closet just freaking burst open and all that crap in the closet came out. And, that's when it finally, I woke up and I was like, man, you cannot keep driving yourself into the ground. You just need to deal with some of this painful stuff that I know you don't want to deal with. And people are managing that stuff every day with, their phone. How many people are so distracted by their phone? Most people that I deal with, they can't sit quietly because they don't want to deal with what's going to bubble up. So a lot of what I do is getting people to calm down and quiet down and accept that, and that quiet space, I call it be still and know. And a lot of this stuff bubbles up when people are able to sit quietly and they can see oh crap, this is something I need to deal with, but they've never slowed down enough in our modern lifestyle to actually deal with it. And I so know it sounds really woo woo, but a lot of people in the fitness industry and in other industries and our society in general, because we're going all the time, there's a lot of psychological issues that are contributing to their health and wellness issues, and getting people to reflect enough and slow down enough to realize that they need to do some work on themselves is not very profitable, one. And two, it takes a lot of time and developing a relationship with somebody and talking to them on a consistent basis and letting them kind of vent and, listening to a lot of the same things over and over again and reminding them, hey, have you been doing your 5-minute, headspace meditation before bed? Have you been walking outside? And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Have you been walking outside every day? Just these little things that have a ripple effect that, basically, like you said, the morning light improves sleep, which helps people relax, improves sleep. It just kind of ripples in the pond. And, getting these big rocks in place can do amazing things for people. And it's just a matter of literally, if you listen to the couple of the podcasts I did with Suzanne Waldrop and Rachel Matthews, they talked about, I literally beat it into their head over, a 2 or 3 year period. You've got to take care of yourself. You've got to get your sleep. You've got to take 5 or 10 minutes and get in the bathtub and just chill for you. You can't go 100 miles an hour all the time. You need to chill. And, people don't, it's hard for people to finally, unless they're have a serious health issue like I did, it's very hard for people to get out of that habit of just going and distracting themselves with their phone, distracting themselves with work.
And it's interesting too, though, because there are those cases that we get where I just started working with somebody who's been struggling with really severe depression for years now, since childhood. And in talking to this person, they've done all this spiritual work, they've been to therapy, they've done the talk therapy, and there is this, that side of the biochemical. And I start talking to him about things like what he's eating and what he likes to eat and what makes him feel better when he eats it and all these other things. And he's telling me this story that I translated my knowledge of biochemistry, the brain, behavior into. There is a biological component to this illness. And so this is where, that's one reason why, working together is going to be so beneficial for patients, clients, whatever you want to call them, is that there's so much biochemically that has to be addressed before you can really get to emotional issues. At least
Sure.
I've found. And people, who are physically exhausted, who are biochemically exhausted, do not manage their emotions well. Their brain doesn't work well. They're not capable of engaging and doing this kind of work, even if they need to. That's
Sure.
why I think the whole mental health, industry, and it really is an industry, is failing on such a colossal scale to
Sure.
actually improve the mental health of modern people. It's because they're focused so rigidly on drugs that, frankly, I think in many cases the trials are not reliable, and so what we even think they do, they don't actually do. Have
Yes.
very nasty side effects in many cases, and oftentimes there's a lot of neurobiology that ends up getting ignored, like, for example, the benefits and the effects of things like exercise, or the benefits of certain dietary changes, like getting more nitric oxide precursors in your diet, or eating more foods with omega-3s, or getting less rancid fats in your diet from things like deep fried food. All of these things have and play a role in the health of the brain, and therefore the health of our minds and our spirits and our emotional well-being.
Well, and then you can look at things like, for somebody like that, you can look at things like the float tank, self-deprivation therapy, also things like, what is it, neurofeedback. You'll have people that are so stuck in a certain pattern in their brain. So attacking things on multiple angles. And we have to come to the realization there's some people that you just can't help. You do the best you can. There's some people that are going to get better really quickly. There's other people that it's going to take a little bit of time. And there's some people that are just that the whole bell curve, right? And you just do the best you can to help educate them and help them along. But, in the end, people's health is basically, it comes up to them. They have to do it themselves, right? And we have to empower people to take ownership of their own health and be patient with people and give them what they need. But it's, as a coach, there's going to be times where maybe I'm not the right person. When I work with young kids, the parents will say, well, I've been talking to my kids about getting into bed. I've been talking to them about eating better, but you said it to them in a way that they just got it. So sometimes it's a matter of like, who's the messenger? And I think a lot of that is really good to have somebody like you and I working together, because I might be able to explain something to somebody in a way that resonates with them. And you might be able to explain something to somebody in a way that resonates with them that I can't. So it's nice to have multiple team members working together to help as many people as possible. But, there's the human element as well, where, it's like in sports, like, when I work with an athlete, there's some athletes that are just Ferraris. There's other athletes that are Camrys. There's other athletes that are Corollas. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with any of those. It's just that the reality is there's people are set up differently, and some people are wired right. Some people are wired okay. And then some people, their wiring's a little messed up. And so, but the majority of people, if you get some healthy habits, if you've got a good lifestyle, if you get all your big boxes checked off, the majority of people are going to see really nice results. But there's some people that unfortunately we just can't help, and I think people need to realize that too, but the vast majority, I'd say 90-95% of people, if they take ownership of their own health, are going to see some pretty nice results.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, 98-99% of people, it all depends on where they are, how far along things are, and then what they're willing to do.
Right.
Because I've
And
found
some people haven't suffered enough. Like, I had to literally almost be dead before I was willing to make changes. Like, that's just stubborn I was. Some people just need a gentle hug and some reassurance, and other people need a hard, stern talk. And that's where years of working with people and reading people and seeing what people need comes into play, because some people need a little smack on the butt, and other people need a hug, so you've got to be able to give the right thing at the right time for the right person. And that just comes with intuition. How excited I am to be able to be part of your team and to help people on a bigger scale than I have. And I've moved to Florida so I can live a more outdoor life. And not everybody can do that, but I'm excited to be able to bring my experience and to help you in a way, to help as many people as we possibly can.
Yeah, and I've been really fascinated to find over the last couple of years as people have come to me for very intensive diet, lifestyle counseling, as well as environmental medicine and remediation, that it really doesn't take that much time with a willing and motivated patient to make a long list of changes that lead to pretty dramatic results.
Sure.
After which we can get them into more of a maintenance phase. What
Correct.
I found is that with somebody who's really invested, really ready to change and understands that that's part of the deal, if they want to get really great results, 6, 7, 10 hours of FaceTime with them on Zoom, whether that's a combination of you and me or just me,
Right.
we can get through all the labs we need to get through. We can really make some big changes and improvements in their physiology. And that's been the most gratifying thing for me in the last 2 years. But what I have found is that not everybody can make the investment to have that much time with a clinician. And so it's exciting to get to expand a team and have you on board to give people that time that they need to cover the stuff that that doesn't take the MD in order to tackle.
Sure. Well, and I think too, people need to realize this, the stress bathtub, or, some people will call it redox potential, right? Your body's ability to handle stress and recover. Some people, when that bathtub fills up and it spills over, some people can empty that bathtub really quickly. Other people, it takes them, like the people that have chronic exercise for a long time, sometimes it takes them a while to empty that bathtub. They start emptying the bathtub and then they fall back into their old habits of like, I feel great now, so I'm going to start beating myself to death again. I've been there. So getting people to understand, like, everybody's stress bathtub is different. It's going to empty faster. Some people's fast, some people slow. But then once you get yourself in a place where you're healthy, you have a little more wiggle room to get away with certain things. You're more resilient. Like you go travel for a week and your sleep's crappy for 3 or 4 days. It doesn't like end your life. That doesn't mean you like go out and just be crazy all the time, but it allows you, once you get yourself in a good place, it allows you to handle more stress, and be more resilient. And so that's something too that I think is very important for us to remind people, is like, okay, what's your individual situation? You might have to be a little more aggressive for a little while. And then I'm also shocked at like how simple some people that are in really bad shape, just a few, like you said, just a few simple changes in light exposure, or adding a protein at every meal, or switching over to higher quality water, and all of a sudden they're like a totally different person. And I've seen that, so it's highly individual, and then just coaching people along with like, okay, just be patient, you'll be okay, depending on their situation. But most people, just need the bare basics, and they need an understanding of, especially with exercise, especially, everybody thinks that exercise is a good thing, which it is, but it can also be a bad thing. What kind of exercise are you doing? Do you need exercise that's restorative, or do you need exercise that's driving an adaptation? And to getting people to understand the difference between the two, Paul Chek calls it working out versus working in. And that's a huge balance that a lot of people really don't understand, the difference between the two.
I entirely agree. Yeah. And one of the things that's been amazing to me to see on patients' labs, and then in their dietary data when they submit that to me, so I see what they're actually eating in detail, is the way that they're not nourishing their body for the tasks that they're putting it through. And the fact that they don't seem to appreciate that, yes, they can, and they have burnt the candle at both ends for year after year after year. But at a certain point, between the aging of the body and the fact that it just doesn't work as well one year after the next, and the fact that they've been burning the candle at both ends for so long, they have to slow down and make time for their wellness, or they will come to a screeching halt sometime and make time for their illness.
I tell people all the time, you either slow down on your own, or you'll be made to.
That's right.
And, for me, it was all in the beginning. The first thing, my first health setback was ulcerative colitis. It could have been easily a heart attack, so I was very lucky. It was something that was, inflammatory, digestive type stuff that I could fix through lifestyle and meditation and changing my diet. And later on, I dealt with some other health issues that got me into the whole circadian biology thing. But, illness is a great teacher. And if people went into it with that kind of attitude, is like, I'm being, nature or God or whatever you want to call it, the world is trying to teach me a lesson. and I'm getting these warning signs. What lesson am I being taught? And that comes back to self-reflection. It comes time to quiet time. It comes down to looking at yourself. And most people are running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to avoid doing that, but eventually you have to pay the piper. And hopefully for most people, they hear the warning signs early on, instead of just like reaching for that energy drink or turning, my favorite thing over the years has been somebody that comes to me and says, I'm not motivated to exercise anymore. I need a different coach I need a coach that's going to yell at me and like turn the music up louder and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, what you need is more rest. If you don't have the motivation to work out and you need somebody to yell at you for an hour, you're probably not in a very good place. You're probably not healthy, and you need to like focus on resting more, because I shouldn't have to scream at you for an hour in order to get you to train. You should want to train because you feel good and you want to train, not because I'm threatening your life, so that's something I've seen a lot of too. And getting people to change their mindset on that. Like, you should want to train if you're healthy. Like, being active and physical and aggressive is a natural part of being human. When you're exhausted, you don't feel well and you're tired, the last thing you want to do is go out and like, get aggressive and do hard, rigorous things. Right.
Any closing thoughts?
Oh, other than just being excited about the opportunity to work with you, I think this, something like the service that we're going to be offering people is very needed. From the feedback I've gotten from my clients, having somebody that's helps hold them accountable and is willing to listen to them and provide feedback, and then also have a medical option that's right there. Like, hey, you need help beyond what I'm able to do to you for you. Is awesome. Pretty awesome opportunity to team up with somebody like you that's like-minded, and we can bounce ideas off each other and help people help themselves, essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm excited to work with you. To apply to work with Jim and I, go to my website, stillmanmd.com, click on the apply for consultation tab, finish that application. That will come to my email inbox and Jim's email inbox, and we will get in touch with you for a discovery call where we can talk about how we can work with you. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day. If this video has been helpful to you, make sure that you check out my link tree below to find out how you can keep in touch with me best. And if you would like to become a patient at my practice, please apply to work with me at stillmanmd.com. Thank you again for watching. Have a great day.